how's it going? Susan Ruth here. This episode I'm really stoked about. I say that every time, and every time I'm just blown away by the cool people I get to talk to. In this episode, I speak with Zach Skow. He is the founder of Marley's Mutts, and within Marley's Mutts, he also has other programs, Pawsitive Change Prison Program, Miracle Mutts, Barks and Books, 22 and 22, which is the work he does to bring awareness to veteran suicide. He works with One Last Treats. It's another organization. So Zach of Marley's Mutts, he's rescued over 3,000 dogs all over the world. God, what an exceptional human being. He said something during our conversation. He said that he was the exception to the rule because as an addict, a recovering addict and alcoholic, he almost died. He was at end-stage liver failure. His dog Marley helped bring him back to life, by loving him unconditionally, the way only dogs can do. And so he now has a fully functioning liver after quitting, drinking and drugging and getting his body back into shape. And Marley was there with him every step of the way. And in gratitude for that, he created this foundation, Marley's Mutts. And now it's hard to explain. I mean, he is the exception to the rule, yes, because medically his body did something that just doesn't happen. Livers don't just come back from that traumatic of an event, end-stage liver failure. And yet, exception to the rule. And Zach is the exception to the rule in many cases because his programs center around what society would deem unlovable as far as human beings and animals. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss of words. I'm going to let the episode speak for itself. But we reference a lot of things in this episode, and there are links on heyhumanpodcast.com for all of the foundations and all of the different programs that Zach, whether he works with them externally or if they're within his own foundation. So that's on the heyhumanpodcast.com. Also, please subscribe on iTunes. It's awesome if you subscribe. It helps get the word out. And other than that, I think that's enough business. Let's get to it. Okay, here we go. I've been following you on Instagram for quite a while. I can't remember how I first learned of all the stuff you do.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm putting a lot more effort into the Instagram these days because we rode the Facebook freight train for as long as we could, and we just had so much success on Facebook, and our Instagram account got hacked somehow.
Oh.
So we had I think we had 7,000 or 8,000 fans. This was probably a year and a half ago, and so we had to start up another one, and I just kind of ignored it. Not ignored it, but I didn't it was just so much effort. I got to operate most of these things. I have some help from our adoption coordinator, but we're doing 10 posts a day, and you got to do it on. It's just exhausting. It's a lot of stuff, especially if you're kind of being open and trying to be original.
If only dogs had thumbs, they could do it for you.
I'm telling you. But I got some pretty funny dogs. Like if we've done some from Baloo's perspective or from Hooch's perspective, I should do that more often because they deserve personalities. Like I know their personalities pretty well, and they should have more. There should be more banter.
Yeah. Hooch is the one that doesn't have a tongue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a Hooch doll right here. I just dropped off Hooch at my dad's house.
Oh.
But this is a Hooch doll.
Nice. The anatomically correct if you open his mouth?
He doesn't have any balls.
Oh.
That part's correct. And no, you can't open the mouth. But it's from shelterpups.com. All right, check this out. This is, can you see Baloo?
Baloo! Oh, hi, baby.
There's the Baloo. Yeah, it's a Baloo that looks just like a Baloo. And his tongue, see how it hangs out here?
Yeah.
It's exactly what he does with his tongue.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
See his tongue?
Where did Baloo come from?
Baloo came the Mojave Animal Shelter.
Okay.
Which is a very obscure animal shelter on the Mojave Airport in Kern County, which is the middle of nowhere. And he bit an animal control officer, and he bit another person after he got out. So he had kind of multiple infractions. It was difficult to keep him in the loop. You know, as an adoptable dog.
Yeah, that's kind of your specialty, though, right? Is unadoptable dogs?
Yeah. So Baloo's a Brazilian Mastiff, and then this is Maggie,
Hi, Maggie.
an Italian Mastiff.
Aww.
And she comes from Eldad Hangar. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He's a pretty famous dog trapper.
I don't know who that is. What do you mean by dog trapper?
He goes and catches dogs that are like on the run, that don't know how to be dogs, don't know how to come in, that have been. Some of them are feral, some of them are just kind of on the lam or in trouble or sick, or some of them are imprisoned in different places. Some of them are all kinds of different stories. Some of them are just really scared, and they've experienced a fight-flight scenario, and they've flown, so they are in full shutdown, fright mode.
Yeah.
They're just like scavenging, to stay alive, and he goes out and traps them, and then sends them to rescues like us.
So I had to tell you, Zach, clearly I've been following your work for a long time, and I think it's incredible, but there was a video that you posted, and when I heard this, I recorded a little snippet, I'll play it for you. When I heard this, I was like, oh, I've got to have him on Hey Human, because the whole point of Hey Human, I'm trying to connect people, because I'm going to play the thing first. You said,
for a three-legged pit bull, that's pretty impressive, and goes to show that any of these dogs can do anything. And then when we judge them, when we give them labels, he's a pit bull, he's black, he's got 3 legs, they really mean nothing. Any of us are capable of anything at any time, and when we stereotype, when we judge, when we prejudge, we're only doing ourselves a disservice.
Amen. I mean, I heard that, I was like, oh my God, exactly.
Yeah, I want to be, I really hope to take the opportunity to post and speak from my heart more often. I'm an extroverted introvert, so I really don't like being on camera. I don't like taking videos. I do it because I have to, and it's what's helped make this organization a success. So it's just like being in meetings. I'm an addict and an alcoholic in recovery, and when I go to meetings, I still get nervous every time I share. Yeah. I still get nervous when I meet people. So a lot of times I don't remember saying those things. It's what I feel, and it's inside of me. But sometimes I'll get in a comfortable kind of groove, and I can speak stream of consciousness and freely, and it all makes sense.
So, I know your story because I've been following it. But just for the people listening who haven't heard the story, in a nutshell, throw it at us.
Well, do you want to talk about that statement anymore? I mean, there's a lot.
I do, because I think it speaks to that statement. I mean, you were in a place where you almost died and felt pretty worthless. You've said in the past, and I think pretty much if you throw a rock at humanity right now, you're going to hit a person that feels that way,
Yeah.
And we spend all this time making each other feel shitty, and you know what I mean? And it's like you're giving all this love to these beautiful animals who, like for me, my dog passed away in January. Still horrible, but it is what it is. And he taught me so much about love and what it means to really love unconditionally, purely.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting that you brought that up, because I have to remind myself of it every day. I think we kind of live in a culture that spends so much time reminding us that we're supposed to hate one another, and that we're supposed to not get along with one another, and that we're supposed to think certain things of one another. And I remember being a kid, and my dad always tells me this story. And I came home from practice, and I told my dad about this kid who was on our team, and he was playing third base now. So he basically stole my position. He was playing third base. I was playing left field. But all I kept talking about was how good this kid was and how great he was going to make our team. And then my dad didn't see until game day of the weekend that this kid was black. So he always tells me that story because I was a very competitive kid, and I cared greatly about sports and about how I was doing. But in that instance, I didn't give a shit what color this kid was, or even that he was taking my position, because I kept thinking about how, because I'm from Hermosa Beach, it's a very small city, so we had a very competitive baseball team, and if we had like that one little, factor, the little X factor, we could go really far, which we ended up doing. And he sort of always reminds me of that story, and that's how I felt playing sports. I never felt any division. I never felt like I prejudged people. People were people. And as I've gotten older and as we become as I become a part of mainstream culture and I'm privy to all these things, it's really depressing. There's constantly a wedge driven between us, and I see it more than anything in what we've done to the pit bull. And pit bulls are, I cannot believe in a progressive society like Colorado, for crying out loud, that a dog, simply because of its muscular structure and a bunch of fear, that we are going to outlaw a dog also that we basically created. So this is something that human beings are 1,000% responsible for. It's not the dog's fault. It is 1,000% human beings, our fault for creating, for perpetuating, for training, for breeding, these dogs. And also we've created like a scapegoat myth about the dog so that we don't have to take responsibility for it. It's so much easier to come up with a scapegoat than to actually be responsible for what we've done. And that knee-jerk kind of immature, ignorant reaction is they are pit bulls. They are this way. They are some sort of fixed, concrete way that they can't be fixed. There's no hope. They take the hope out of it. They take the love out of it. And we have liberal hippies, literally liberal hippies, reverting back to like fascist racism. It boggles my mind.
Yeah.
I can't process that.
It's weird to think that, there are people that breed violence in a dog, and the dog does something based on what the human does. It's like the gun thing, where people say, oh, well, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, people train the pit bulls to be fighters, but I've met lovely pit bulls that are sweet as sweet can be. People are dicks.
Yeah. Pit bulls have just like any dog has an ability, German Shepherds are protection dogs, and cattle dogs can herd cattle, and sheep dogs herd sheep, and Pyrenees protect herds, and Mastiffs guard fences, and pit bulls fight. That's what human beings created pit bulls to do, is be good at fighting, amongst a lot of other things. But they have that ability in them, but it doesn't mean that that's their default frequency. Pit bulls, and that's why we have to understand dog psychology. That's why we have to take the time to understand dog psychology. We take a lot of time to understand, child and human psychology, but we then just anthropomorphize and apply all of those ideals to dogs, and we don't even give them the respect of that. We treat them like children, like mentally deficient children, where we just come at them with a high-pitched voice and a really sympathetic tone, which does nothing but exude weakness, which is not something dogs respond well to. So just the whole way we approach dogs, I think in general, is inaccurate, is unhealthy. But when a person goes out on a limb and says something like that, some people hear, this guy is telling me not to love my dog, and that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm trying to have people better understand their dogs so that they can love them better, so they can take their pit bull to a dog park, and then so that they can take their pit bull, on the Strand for a walk, and not have to be so tense and not have to be so worried, so nervous. Fear controls everything in this world, so much of this world, not everything. We combat it with love, but not often enough. And right now we're in a period of time where fear is unfortunately plaguing our society in every aspect, including how we deal with dogs. And in pit bulls in particular, there's always been a scapegoat. Throughout humankind, there's always been a scapegoat. In like in the 80s, it was the Doberman, and then it was the Rottweiler. And those were the terrible bad dogs, right? And then now it's pit bull.
Yeah.
So who knows what it'll be It'll be the Cane Corso in 2020 or something.
Did people try to outlaw Rottweilers? Did they do that? I didn't think that went that far with Rottweilers.
Oh, I don't know. I just remember. I remember viewing Rottweilers and Dobermans.
That's the bad dogs. Hellhounds.
Very bad dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have, like, Marley is a Rottweiler pit bull. I have Notch as a pit bull, Hank's a pit bull, Maggie's a Cane Corso, Baloo's a Brazilian. I have all these bad dogs.
And they all get along, right?
Huh?
And they all get along just fine.
Yeah, they're all good.
You're the alpha. You're their alpha, right? You're the lead dog.
I mean, to a certain degree, there's a degree for they have to listen to me, and I have to do my best to maintain calm confidence, or else they're going to take matters into their own hands and jockey for position and orient themselves accordingly. And if I don't want that to happen, if I don't want the natural course of things to play out with dogs, which can be violent sometimes if they're having some sort of they're trying to establish their own dominance, then I need to. That's why walking dogs is so powerful. Walking dogs it's such a it can be a meditation every time you do it if you take time to center yourself, think about where you are, and adjust yourself accordingly. Because if you go on a walk and you're pissed off, irritable, discontent, hungry, angry, whatever, it will channel through the leash. Your vibe that you're giving off is going to affect the dog, and you're going to have a terrible time. Nacho, for instance, is a very powerful. He's 100-some-odd pound pit bull that we got from a fighting situation, and if I'm not centered, then he's just going to pull the whole time. He's going to go after chipmunks. He's going to do whatever. But if I'm centered, he sits right by my side, and I drop the leash, and he does not leave my side, and we cruise, and I don't even have to hold the leash.
Wow.
But the difference is so palpable. It's funny. And Caesar used to always talk about that. That's something that another thing that people like to think is some sort of like hooey, some kind of bullshit mumbo jumbo. But it really is true. If there's proper intention behind your commands and what you're trying to accomplish, rather than anger, then you will accomplish it.
Mikey, my dog, he was a Chihuahua Dachshund Jack Russell mix, and he was a rescue and came out of a weird situation. And I got him when he was about 7 months old, and it's funny, I had him for 10 years, and he was with me, constant companion with me, and.
Yeah.
I mean, we went on road trips. We flew together. We went everywhere. He went with me to everything. And people would always say, "Oh, he's so mellow. He's so chill." I'm like, well, "That's because I'm mellow and chill." Dogs will be like their people. If you're just
I thought you were going to say it's because he's on drugs.
Yeah, I drug him real good. So the pit bull you were drawn to because they're the sort of the throwaway dog that everyone's pointing a finger at.
It was kind of a. Marley, my dog is a pit bull. He's a Rottweiler pit bull, and he was my first. Well, he and Tug, those are my two original dogs. They live at my dad's house in like the retiree home.
Nice.
My dad's not retired yet, but that's where the retired dogs go to thrive and drink wine and watch TV. And yeah, there was just something so special about that dog, and he wasn't malicious at all. But wherever I take him, people would flinch and they'd pull their kids up, and even what happened when I started adding dogs to my pack was Marley would, if there was any sort of perturbation, when the energy, flared like this, he would react and bring it back down low. He wouldn't fight. I remember watching him barrel into two dogs that were fighting, two big dogs, and so there would be this. Two dogs would be sniffing each other out, and there'd be something that would set him off. And Marley would bum rush him, and he basically punk each dog until they got back in line and were mellow.
Wow.
And I loved that about him. He was just the consummate peacekeeper. He just wanted things to be mellow and chill, and he's just so good with kids and so good with people. And yeah, I mean, there are. Marley is your quintessential American shelter dog. He looks like 75% of the dogs in the shelter. He's a short-haired, multicolored pit bull. 75, 80 pounds. And I mean, at his heaviest, he's probably 90. But yeah, you know, and people don't take a chance on those dogs, you know, and yeah, even more so in recovery. You know, dogs are a lot like shelter dogs are a lot like people in recovery. You know, they've kind of been cast aside. They're at a particular stage of hopelessness, and they need something very, very special to get them out of it. And then they also need rules, boundaries, limitations, affection, and you know, exercise and guidance. You know, all the things shelter dogs need in order to thrive as dogs, as companions, are the same things that addicts and alcoholics, people in recovery need. You know, so that's why I related so much to him. We kind of just grew together, and like you said about your dog, he taught me so much about unconditional love and just being cool with things. I had a long memory when it came to keeping some resentments and being pitiful. I felt pitiful often. I felt sorry for myself, you know, because I felt sorry that I hated myself so much, and I saw my dogs, and my dogs 100% didn't have any self-image issues.
Yeah.
He didn't look at himself in the morning and be like, man, I'm just a pit bull. I'm just a black pit bull. I'm just a black pit bull. You know, I got the deck stacked against me. You know, he didn't come up for any reasons why the day should suck. He just every day was going to be rad, or he was going to nap, whatever. You know, either way, it was going to be a solid day. You know, if he could convince me to take him out and go do something fun, then he'd have an extra special day. And yeah, I don't know. He just taught me. He taught me to love myself because I had a very difficult time doing that. I don't know if you want to segue into my story. I can just start talking about that.
Yeah.
I feel like I talk too much.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a podcast, conversation.
Yeah, I suppose so. I just don't want to dominate it.
I would like you to dominate it.
So yeah, I got diagnosed with end-stage liver disease in the late winter, early spring of 2008. So my liver failed, and a lot of things started happening to me. My stomach started to get real big, started to bleed out of both ends, started to turn yellow, and I didn't stop drinking. I drank more, as a matter of fact, and I just ignored it for as long as possible until I had to get checked into the hospital for long-term care because I was dying of liver failure. I was very, very sick.
You said that you could see yourself getting like that. Were you just sort of at that stage like, well, I'm already here, I might as well just kind of keep going? You know what I mean?
I
Didn't care.
I didn't want to face it. No, I couldn't face it. I went to the hospital. I went to the doctor. They had taken blood, and my doctor said to me, he sits me down. He looks at my blood test results, and he looks back up at me, and he's like, "You need to go to the hospital." And I go, what are you talking about? He's like, "You're very sick, and you need to go to a hospital." And I just looked at him, and I was like, you know, maybe it's just because I got real drunk last night. Maybe that's why. Like, are you sure that I'm pretty hungover? No, these are blood tests. This is not something that would have been from, you know, one drunk. Like, every one of your numbers is elevated, and you're in liver failure, and you need to go to the hospital. And I got back. I remember going out to my dad, and he was in the car. I told him, you know, we just got to cut back on the Excedrin PM, and you know, I should only drink with dinner. I didn't tell him anything about my liver. I think I said something about my kidneys. I don't know. I don't remember. But I couldn't face it. I just had this overwhelming fear of facing life sober. And that's what happens when you're physically addicted. I'd gone through physical withdrawals before, and it's the worst thing you can imagine. So once you've got a taste of physical withdrawals from alcohol, you just don't want to ever do it again. And I couldn't imagine, you know, there was just I had no identity. I could not be myself without alcohol. There was just no me without alcohol and drugs. You know, I didn't know how to be. I hadn't been myself in so long. It was just whenever I felt that intense fear start to bubble up, I drank, and that's the only thing that kept it suppressed. You know, if I didn't drink, then it got to surface, and that was basically like operating at the level of panic attack at all times, and I couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
So, I went to the hospital. They kept me there for almost 2 months. I just got worse and got sicker, and I got addicted to pain medicine in the hospital, and then finally my family just broke me out of the hospital, and they got me an appointment at Cedars-Sinai, which is one of the 7 hospitals that does liver transplant. And I got an interview with the Comprehensive Transplant Program, Dr. Tran, and she admitted me to the program, which basically exists to keep people who are in liver failure alive through different, through routine checkups, through medication management, through other means by which, mostly people with hepatitis C, which is a viral condition. Acute alcoholic hepatitis is different. And she just said, go home and wait, stay close to an emergency room and try to get your 6 months sober because you need a liver transplant. That's the only thing that's going to help you. It's the only thing that's going to save your life. I think I had an 85% chance of dying within 30 days without a liver transplant. Wow. So, I was like mortally ill. Mm-hmm. And then I went home and things were terrible. I had to go through opiate withdrawal, and I went to the hospital a bunch of times. I was dope sick, and it was fucking awful.
Were you not drinking at that point?
No, I was just bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just shitting myself and vomiting blood, and it was terrible. I started to get a little bit better. I started to walk my dogs. One day, finally, my dogs just every morning look at me like, what are we going to do today? By the way, you're the sexiest thing on the planet. They look at me like, you're the greatest. You're just so good. And I'm looking at them like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Turn away. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I just had this deep-seated self-loathing that was so pitiful and like constant self-loathing. And I finally kind of just gave in and started walking my dogs and started journaling and started going to meetings all the time. I had my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in the hospital, which was terrific. That was the first thing that gave us some hope. And and then I drank again like a month after I got out of the hospital. I just started to get a little bit better. And I don't know what it was. I wasn't sleeping, and I was still really sick. I was still yellow, and I just couldn't handle it. People looked at me funny because of the way I looked, and I wasn't sleeping, and I didn't know how to be me, and I was scared of people, places, and things, and I just didn't know how to do it. So I drank again. I had to tell my dad got back from Brazil. He was gone for 2 days. I found the back of the spare set of keys in the truck. Drove and I remember just getting a bottle of wine, and then I blacked out, which I don't ever do. I can drink a lot of alcohol and not black out. Yeah. And I woke up 2 days later, and there was more wine everywhere. I don't know how I got it. And he was going to be there in like 4 hours, and I had to go walk over to him when he got back, and I told him, I said, we got to go to the hospital. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, we got to go to the hospital. I drank again. And he looked up at me, and he didn't believe me. He just was like, what? And I said, we have to go to the hospital. I took my glasses off. I had my glasses on. And I took my glasses off, and he could see how yellow my eyes were. And so he knew right then, and he just started crying, and he just said, you've killed yourself, you've killed yourself, you've killed yourself. He just kept repeating it. And then he was like, fuck you, I'm not taking you to the hospital. He was like, fuck you, you wanted to kill yourself? Kill yourself. That was the last time I had a drink.
Wow.
And then I kind of just became obsessed with trying to get better, obsessed with exercising and just walking. I couldn't exercise, really. I could just walk. And then walking turned into running, and then running turned into exercising, and just trying to eat right and just trying to survive, And then my numbers just started to get steadily better, and I became healthy enough to not need a liver transplant anymore. So, I'm still a transplant patient, once you're end stage, once you've been that sick, once your liver's been that compromised, you're always a transplant patient, because usually you die or you get a transplant.
Yeah.
So, I'm the exception to the rule. So yeah, that's where I stand now. Is I'm a liver transplant patient in good standing. If anything happens to me, if I get sick, I'm in good standing to receive help, and all is well.
Wow, that's a hell of a story, man.
Yeah.
You must feel like a completely different person that has this other person in them, you know?
You cut out there. What
I said to feel like, you're this other person now, but you have that person still in you. It's always in you. It'll always be in you. It's always a part of you. But, that it's quelled. And this...
Yeah, it keeps me relatable. It's one thing, because I work with so many alcoholics and drug addicts that is definitely always at the surface. It's always just beneath the surface. Being able to relate to those feelings, and that makes it a lot easier to work with people who are in recovery when you can relate to that feeling.
And you bring the dogs in to help people. I know you do the prison stuff now, and so talk about that a little bit, because that's awesome as well.
Yeah, we have an inmate training and rehabilitation program. It's rehab for the dogs, rehab for the humans.
So explain that, what that means exactly.
We have 10 dogs living at the California City Penitentiary in Cal City. 10 dogs with 26 inmates. The dogs live there in the pod B3. And these are all violent criminals who most of them have been in prison for a very long time. And all of them will get out of prison, so they're all going to need jobs eventually. And so we're trying to help them get jobs when they get out in the pet services industry, whether that's the shelter or doggy daycare or rescue, whatever, walking dogs. People tend not to mind if people have felony records when it's dealing with dogs. Or, we're a more forgiving group of people. And the dogs that we give them are there because they're not well. They're not there because they're good. They're there because they have issues. So the dogs and the humans can relate to both being a little fucked up, and, which is great. And the guys love it. I mean, we have. It's really important because I identify as an addict and an alcoholic when I'm there, and a lot of the guys are there because of their own diseases, and so that's pretty powerful. And the guys are all mixed in with race-wise, which is really, really special. Most of these guys don't ever interact with men of other races, and they do in our program, and they're brothers in our program, which is special to watch. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's on the same level, and they help one another. And we have our issues. There's personalities. You got 26 felons, and there's 4 trainers. There's 4 of us, Kim and Leah and Lisa. And Sam has been helping us out too. So we all go in every Tuesday and we spend many hours there training. And then the men have homework and they got to do their thing, and it's great. And
the dogs stay there all the time?
Yep, they live there.
Wow.
And then they're there for 14 weeks. It's a 14-week long program. Then the dogs go through Canine Good Citizen certification, which is a very difficult test. 2 inmates take the dog through the test, 5 points each. It's a 10-point test. Yeah, it's awesome. Graduation is like the best thing ever. It's the coolest thing to be a part of. You've been to everyone's ever been to a guide dog graduation where there's a bunch of blind people on stage getting their dogs? This is kind of like that. It's depressing though because the guys leave the dogs that day. Like, we take the dogs with us.
Oh, that's gotta be brutal. Do you get them prepared for that?
I mean, no. I don't know how you do.
That would break my heart. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, it was tough. And then we take 2 weeks off, and then we go back in with another set. We start out with demo dogs, and then we bring in the shelter. They're all shelter dogs. They're all dogs that come from our shelters nearby. Yeah. California City Shelter, Mojave, Bakersfield.
Do you have to, pardon the pun, vet the prisoners so that you know that they aren't animal abusers?
Yeah, they can't be animal abusers, and they can't be rapists. Which actually they can't be like women abusers. which kind of cuts down a lot of the people that we can draw from. Actually, I mean, at first people were like, well, they're not dangerous criminals, are they? And they're almost all of them are violent criminals, but they're great. They're great. I mean, a lot of them they've been in there since they were 17 for being knuckleheads, and they've tried to mature in prison, and they're trying to find an identity, and they're clutching at straws to find anything to give them positive nourishment, like spiritual nourishment, and our program does that. So it's neat to watch them grow, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dog is love.
Yeah,
what was the impetus to get you in the doing the prison thing? Was that a natural from the rehab thing? A natural segue?
I always wanted to do it. I really always wanted to do it. One of my best friends, Robbie, was incarcerated for 12 years. And when he got out, he adopted a dog from me. And now he operates this really cool rescue called Free to Live Animal Sanctuary in Oklahoma City. And I fucking love that guy. And it's just so good what's happened to him. He's the director of the rescue, you know. And it was 3 years after getting out of prison, he'd worked his way up and become that. And he's a violent criminal, and he's from my neighborhood, from near where I grew up. And you know, if we can do that, if something like that can happen with him, certainly if we spend all this time training these guys and we facilitate them when they get out, I could have been any of those guys that are in there. I could have been any one of them. I've done plenty of things in my life that could land me in the penitentiary for a long time, and there's just no difference between us. And I mean, whatever. There are differences, I suppose, but they're negligible.
Yeah.
And it's important. I mean, our prison system needs a lot of work.
It's so broken.
It's so broken. Yeah. So this is the way we can make a difference, you know. This is a way that I can. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a tremendous amount going in there and hanging out with those guys.
Yeah. Where do you get your funds from? How do you do the fundraiser part? How can people?
Yeah.
They just throw money at you.
It's all free. No, it's all we do it for free.
I know you do. But it's got to cost an arm and a leg to get the food and the.
We just started the prison. I just finished up. My friend Kristen has helped us put together a fundraiser for the prison program, and we need to basically raise at least $1,000 a week because the trainers are coming from Los Angeles. This is 2 hours away from them. All the supplies, all the food, all that. I mean, 10 dogs just going through poop bags when they live inside a prison. So just the amount of poop bags we go through for 10 dogs, 3 poops a day, 10 dogs.
Wait, they can't go outside, I guess, huh? They have to be. It's in the prison itself.
No, they go outside.
Oh, they do. Okay. All right.
So, but they have to use their poop bags outside. They don't have a pooper scooper. They use their poop bag, and I think it's just easier to not have an implement like that, like a pooper scooper, the actual tool, because it could be used as a weapon.
Sure. So can poop.
Yeah, so can poop. None of our guys are poo throwers.
That's good.
They're all very well behaved. They're incredibly respectful, and they're great guys. And I've grown to respect each and every one of them. So we need help with that. We need help. We're trying to get into detached penitentiary as well, and $40,000. It costs $40,000 a year to incarcerate a man in California State Prison. $40,000 a year, and it's 75% of them will end up back in prison within 3 years. 75% to spend $40,000 for the course of that guy's life. If he's in prison for 40 years or 30 years, do the math. 30 times 40,000. An astronomical amount of money. If we spend the money on if just one guy doesn't reoffend, and just one guy doesn't return back to prison, that's worth the program 10 times over. So I'm trying to explain that math to people because these guys can get jobs with the skills that we're giving them, and they're damn good trainers. They are becoming legitimately good trainers. They have really tough dogs. They're going through everything from crate training to potty training to all kinds of obedience I mean, those dogs are very well trained when they get out.
Do you know what's so amazing about that too? I feel like that because of the way dogs are, and here's the thing that's the miracle of a dog, gets me a little choked up, is that you can get a dog who has been treated so horrifically, so horribly, and it just wants you to love it. You know, it's like it forgets. It knows, you know, that it's had that, and it might be cagey or whatever, but it just, all it wants is love. And so here are these people in prison who probably did not get love, let's be honest, you know, in a lot of ways, and probably feel pretty shitty about themselves. And then there's
It's a weakness, It's a weakness to show that kind of emotion.
Yeah, and then there's these dogs now that are like, well, I'll love you, you know? It's amazing.
That's great, and it sets the stage for the whole pod is allowed to be compassionate. The whole group of guys are allowed to be compassionate, and even with one another, because because they're being compassionate with the dogs, because they're striving to give these, and they take it deadly seriously. They're not fucking around in there. They're real. They really mean it. I mean, some of them enjoy being challenged immensely. You know, they want the tough dogs. They want a challenge. They want. It's really neat.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of very bright people in prison. I mean, bright people tend to get bored easy, and then they get into trouble. And then prison, the way the system works, unfortunately, as you know, I'm sure that it's a money-making. Now that prison's becoming privatized, and, you know, what is the incentive to let people get out, first of all, and they don't treat mental illness, they don't treat addiction. None of that stuff is really even dealt with on so many levels.
Yeah, the substance abuse program is pretty inadequate, and vocational programs are pretty inadequate from what I know. I don't know a lot, but I know about the substance abuse programs because my sponsor goes in, spends time in there, and they're there. They're just, it's not something that is really, really focused on. They don't give them the tools that when they get out, they have, they can go to meetings, I suppose, but, it's intimidating having been, and all the things you have to comply with when you get out. It's not, it's a lot of stuff you got to comply with. Some of them, when they get out, they have mouths to feed, babies they have to pay for, and it's hard for them to get a job.
Yeah.
They're going to pay for these babies when they don't have a job, so they go back to doing what they know how to do.
Right. And some of them have been in prison so long that that's the life they know. So when they get out, they don't. It's sort of like, in a weird way, it's very similar to probably the way military people are, who are, you send them to war for 10 years, various wars, and then expect them to assimilate when they get back. It's, how do people supposed to do that?
Yeah, and they learn a lot of bad shit in prison. They learn how to do a lot of new crimes, They learn how to weasel the system, and they learn a lot of new bad stuff.
Yeah.
We just finished up a 22 and 22 program, which was from the 16th to the 4th of July, June 16th to the 4th of July. And we rescued 22 dogs in 22 days to bring attention to veteran suicide. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. And so we got veterans involved in our rescues. And my buddy Joel Rocky, who started this organization called One Last Treat, he's a Navy corpsman, so he's in the Navy, but he's basically a combat medic, entrenched with the Marines. And so he and I worked on that together and saved a bunch of dogs and got veterans involved in transporting and veterans involved in being there, part of the rescues, and it was cool.
Yeah, I followed that on Instagram too, but I wanted everybody to hear that. So cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. What is that around your neck? Is that from, what is that, Tibetan? The necklace you've got in your hand?
This is actually from Nicaragua, from a buddy of mine who made it. But it's got Eastern origins. It's just made out of volcanic rock.
Cool.
Yeah, from Nicaragua.
Something grounding.
I dig it. Yeah, I had a shitty 2 days.
Why?
I didn't sleep at all. I had back surgery.
Ooh.
And wasn't sleeping, and then we were in prison all day yesterday, and I really felt like off my game. There were a couple of the guys that were really struggling, and it's kind of my job to go speak with them, pull them aside, have talks with them, and get to the bottom of what's happening in their mind. and I just felt like I wasn't being as genuine as I could have been because I was so exhausted. Like there's sometimes where you make eye contact with another man when you're trying to be vulnerable, certainly when you're doing it inside a prison with a man of the opposite race who is not used to interacting with you, you're not used to interacting with him. And it's somebody that you love, somebody that you care about, and you want to have the right answers for him. But I also was in a position where I needed to be tough. This person was in trouble, and I needed to be, not enable him. And I just, so I beat myself up a little bit from that one. But there's a lot going on, a lot of responsibility, and sometimes I still feel like a kid who's trying to catch up. In the game of life.
Yeah, I know that feeling. So you need to figure out how to raise $50,000 a year per program, right? Or per inmate or per program?
We need to do the prison program. Yeah, we do it 3 times a year, 3.5 times. So yeah, we need $50,000 a year to do it.
Yeah, that's encompassing all the prisoners that take part in it.
Yeah, that's to do just Cal City. So that's to graduate. That's to save basically 30 dogs and probably 100 inmates.
Is it hard when you go in to talk to the shelters and say, look, this is what I'm doing? Are they pretty good about just saying, okay, here you go, here's
For
the
the prison program?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they love it.
That's good.
Yeah.
They don't red tape you to death or anything.
No. Kern County Animal Services is outrageously supportive.
That's good.
I wouldn't be in any other city. Like the love that we get from our shelter and the support they give us is like second to none. It's so different. Going into Los Angeles and trying to pull a dog takes like an hour and a half. I walk in, I don't have to. They give us free reign to work because they trust us to pull dogs, to help facilitate different things, send us pictures of different dogs. They're our buddies and they're our co-rescuers.
Yeah.
They're our people. I love them.
So talk a little bit about the dog meat trade that you go in and you help get by the literally truckloads. These dogs are being taken to the most disturbing situations. That I understand culturally it's pretty hard to have any kind of understanding. At least for me, I find it hard.
There's a lot of torture involved. Dogs when they're killed for the meat trade are usually killed you're trying to course adrenaline through their vein and cortisol as much as possible. So you're strangling them or electrocuting them. That's how they die. And I witness it, and I've seen them set on fire, and I've seen them electrocuted, and that's how they're killed, right in front of me, right in the middle of a market, middle of downtown Seoul, plain as day, with dog meat, displayed in a cage right there with caged dogs all around, and I would love to continue to be involved in that. I don't know. We are in that we still accept dogs from Soy Dog Foundation. We've been over to Thailand a couple times. I've been to Korea in the trenches, and that was definitely an experience. So we support Soy Dog Foundation, and we try to help them as much as possible and pull dogs. And it's the culture and the paradigm is going to shift. It's just a matter of time. It's been exposed. We keep shining a light on it. It's going to be. It's going to change, but it's got to happen within Korea. It's got to happen within China. China. It's not going to happen because some Brit or some American comes in there and tells them to. It's going to have to happen from within.
Yeah. Can you talk a minute about one of your experiences when you were in Korea or when you were dealing with that, or is it just?
Yeah, I was shocked at how easy it was to find dog meat farms and how easy it was to find markets, how easy it was to find restaurants that serve. There's restaurants that serve dog meat soup, especially in the summertime. And they believe that dog meat keeps your body temperature regulated. So it was everywhere, and then the farms were enormous. There were some smaller ones. Like we went to a couple small ones, and we rescued Mac and May, and then Soul, a golden retriever. people talk all kinds of shit too. They think we planted them there. They didn't think there would be a golden retriever at a dog meat farm. And they thought the video was like staged. It was unbelievable the shit people talk. But it was horrific. There's so many dogs there, and they're in such deplorable conditions. And all you can hope to do is I played kind of a Western like exposer, right? Where I had my camera, I had a video camera, I had a GoPro, and my job was to kind of get them to give us dogs, and scare the shit out of them. And Nami Kim, the gal I was with, she knew everything about the rules and the regulations to scare these people into, and this is like polluting groundwater, noise pollution, stuff that they could get cited and ticketed for. So not actually having dogs, that's not necessarily illegal. See other stuff, and it was pretty horrific. I mean, it was really horrific. A lot of the things we saw, and I was just surprised that many people. Some of the neighbors of the dog farm were over it. They were pissed off, and they didn't want him there, and they thought negatively about it. A couple of them. It just kind of depends. It in pocket, It's kind of like, some people fly the Union Jack flag proudly because of their Civil War Southern heritage, and other people think it's the worst thing in the world.
Right.
And they could live next door to each other,
Yeah. Wild. So what's your plan? Do you have a big plan? What's next?
For
just everything.
What's next is I want to help rehabilitate dogs and people in one place. So I want to create a center where we can rehabilitate people alongside dogs, just like what happened with me.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
That's awesome.
Is to create a rescue ranch for humans and dogs. That's my jam and my goal.
So if you
I have everything in my head.
Huh? Repeat that?
I was going to say I have everything in my head and everything in my heart to accomplish it. I just need to raise the money.
Yeah. Well, if you ever do a fundraiser in Nashville, I can get you a handful of musicians that would totally be there for you. So, just so you know.
Well, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So you're in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm in Nashville.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been. I hear good things.
Oh, it's a good town. Good food. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's growing exponentially. It's a little nutty, but it's a lot to do, a lot to see.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to go.
Yeah. Well, come on. So, do you think that the you 7 years ago could have wrapped his head around the you now? It was 7 years ago, right? Is that what you said?
8, almost 8.
8.
That's a good question. I don't think, no part of me thought that I would be rescuing dogs for a living and working with addicts and alcoholics. I mean, soon after I got into sobriety, I knew that the key to my sobriety was working with other people, but I didn't know that I would be doing it. That would be what makes me happy. That is what truly, stokes my fire is working with other people that are struggling. I don't ever feel quite as alive as I do when because that's when because it's hard for me to stay grateful. I don't wake up grateful. I don't go to bed grateful. But when I work with, it sounds weird, but it's probably a lot of ego related. But when I work with somebody who's struggling, I remember what it's like to struggle, and then it's all there. It all makes sense, and then it's tangible. I don't just feel grateful, and that's part of whatever my mental illness. That it's difficult for me to be just happy. I have to be active to be happy. And my default, frequency isn't necessarily stoked. I have to be doing something to be. I have to be in action to be happy.
Yeah, it's a good thing to know about yourself. Sometimes, I like to say sometimes you're in the very last place you look.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're absolutely welcome. Shoot me thank you to all the listeners, and please go to marleysmutts.org
and donate.
Support our...
I'll put stuff. Yeah. I'll put links up on my website too, and do all that stuff, and
Okay.
Get the word out. And good luck with everything.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for taking the time and showing interest.
The pleasure was all mine, honestly. I'm so happy that people like you exist in the world, thank God, you know? I mean, not just from the animal perspective. I mean, I'm super happy that there are dogs out there who had no chance that now have a chance, but I'm glad that there are people out there as well. Same thing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right.